Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers for a World in Crisis, from the writings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Today, Common Sense, from Sri Aurobindo. Common sense, by the way, is not logic, which is the least common sense-like thing in the world. It is simply looking at things as they are, without inflation or deflation. Not imagining wild imaginations, or for that matter, despairing, I know not why, despairs. Question. The overmind seems so distant from us, and your Himalayan austerity and grandeur takes my breath away, making my heart palpitate. Sri Aurobindo. Oh, rubbish! I am austere and grand, grim and stern, every blasted thing I never was. I groan in an un-Aurobindo despair when I hear such things. What has happened to the common sense of all you people? In order to reach the overmind, it is not at all necessary to take leave of this simple but useful quality. The man of common sense, who cannot see what lies before his nose, naturally considers the man who can see a prophet or a visionary. Common sense, it is said, should be our guide and not imagination. All this is well, and we would be the last to deny the necessity of the work so much insisted upon. But the work is nothing without the ideal, and will be fruitless if divorced from its inspiring force. Which is common sense? To tread the right path or to avoid it because it promises to be thorny, which is common sense? To mislead ourselves or to speak the truth and do the right? The uplifting of a nation cannot be accomplished by a few diplomatic politicians. The spirit to serve, the spirit to work, the spirit to suffer must be roused. India needs a great national movement in which each man will work for the nation and not for himself or for his caste, a movement carried out on common sense lines. It does not mean that we ought to adopt a brand new system from Europe, but it does mean that we must borrow a little common sense in our solutions of the problems of life. Government is a matter of common sense and compromise, and its aim should be to secure the legitimate interests of the people governed. I wonder when you people will stop trusting the first stranger with a glib tongue who professes nationalist fervor and devotion. Whether you accept my estimate of him or not, you may be sure that his bhakti for me is humbug. as shown by the above newspaper incident, and you must accept at least the facts I have given you, and draw any conclusions that common sense may suggest to you. This is from the possibility of a first step towards international unity, its enormous difficulties. There cannot, as yet, be even a real external unity, far less a psychological oneness. It is true that the vague sense and need of something of the kind has been growing rapidly, and the object lesson of the war brought the master idea of the future out of the nascent condition in which it was no more than the generous chimera of a few pacifists or internationalist idealists. It came to be recognized that it contains in itself some force of eventual reality, and the voice of those who would cry it down as the pet notion of intellectual cranks and faddists had no longer the same volume and confidence, because it was no longer so solidly supported by the common sense of the average man, that short-sighted common sense of the material mind, which consists in a strong feeling for immediate actualities and an entire blindness to the possibilities of the future. Obviously, if such exaggerations are put into my words, they become absurd and untenable. My statement is perfectly clear, and there is nothing in it against reason or common sense. The word has power. Even the ordinary written word has a power. If it is an inspired word, it has still more power. What kind of power, or power for what, depends on the nature of the inspiration. Things. Language is not bound by analogy, and because meditation has become meditation, it does not follow that it must become meditation, and that meditation is now a monosyllable, contrary to all common sense and the privilege of the ear. It is this faith that you need to develop, a faith which is in accordance with reason and common sense, that if the divine exists and has called you to the path, as is evident, then there must be a divine guidance behind and through. And in spite of all the difficulties, you will arrive. From the Mother. All ordinary common sense, which is still triumphant in this world, tells me, what illusions you nurse, my child. You arrange things to your satisfaction. You're sugarcoating the pill for yourself, and so on. It comes like that, regularly, in waves. Well, it's also part of the problem. But a time will come when certain truths will be acknowledged as true and no longer disputed. Then the work will be easier. But in order to get there has to be at least a beginning of experience, a beginning of realization that enables you to say, but here is the proof. Sri Aurobindo always said the greatest obstacle to true understanding and participation in the work is common sense. He said that's why nature creates madmen from time to time. They are people not strong enough to bear the dismantling of this petty stupidity called common sense. Now, there is a small remedy which is very, very easy. For it is based on a simple personal question of one's common sense. You must observe yourself a little and say that when you are afraid, it is as though the fear was attracting the thing you are afraid of. If you are afraid of illness, it is as though you were attracting the illness. If you are afraid of an accident, it is as though you were attracting the accident. And if you look into yourself and around yourself a little, you will find it out. It is a persistent fact. So if you have just a little common sense, you say, it is stupid to be afraid of anything, for it is precisely as though I were making a sign to that thing to come to me. If I had an enemy who wanted to kill me, I would not go and tell him, it's me you want to kill. It's something like that. So since fear is bad, we won't have it. And if you say you are unable to prevent it by your reason, well, that shows you have no control over yourselves and must make a little effort to control yourselves. That is all. Common sense. It is very practical and avoids many mistakes, but it lacks flight. Generally, parents or educators pass their time in throwing cold water on all that, telling you, oh, that, it is a dream, it is no reality. It is just the contrary that one should do. You must teach the children, yes, that you must try to realize. And not only is it possible, it is sure and certain. If you can establish a relation with that within you which is capable of the thing, that must direct your life, organize it, make you grow in the direction of the true real, which the ordinary world calls illusion. You must do that. Instead of turning children into ordinary people with their flat, vulgar common sense, which becomes an inveterate habit and causes, whenever something goes well, the idea to enter immediately into the being. Oh, that's not going to last. Or when someone is nice, this impression, oh, that's going to change. Or when you are capable of doing something, oh, tomorrow I shall not be able to do it so well. That is like an acid in the being, a destroying acid that takes away all hope, certainty, faith in future possibility.